Everyone. This is Sawcruhteez Streamz, and I am your host, Tyler Coates, with my co-host today, Daisy Komen, tuning in from the Netherlands. It's always a pleasure to have you with us to ask some great questions and keep some eye on the chat for the great questions that come through there. So I am showing that I'm having a little bit of trouble with my stream quality, so hopefully that doesn't have any issues. And in the past, we maybe have had a little bit of trouble with Daisy's sound quality, so we'll just kind of start out by checking to make sure that everything is going good before diving on into some charts. So how are you doing today, Daisy?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Let's do a check. So, oops, this is my iPhone little thing plugged into the computer. So I'm doing well. We have had such weather here in the Netherlands. It almost feels like summer for the last couple of days. So everybody's happy, getting some tan and saying bye-bye to the winter. Let me just check me plugging this thing out and just let's try computer audio. And then the live chat, you can vote on which audio is better. I'm plugging it out right now.
All right, sounds good.
Can you still hear me? Sorry?
Yep, I sure can.
Yeah? Okay, so this is me talking through the computer audio. I had a good week. Of course, everything's different when you're self-isolating, which you also are. It's a bit odd, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought?
Absolutely. I mean, this is my favorite time of the year. When it starts turning to spring, that's when everything starts coming to life. Weather's been turning really nice here lately as well, and that's when I start getting excited for the golf tournaments coming up. First one of the year is called the Hope and We're Open, and this will be the first year I've been a member that they will not be open for that. And
God, really?
Yes. It's,
so in Europe, the Eurovision Song Festival is really big, and because we won last year, we were the hosts for this one this year. I actually know somebody who's organizing this, and now they canceled the whole thing. So the whole of the Netherlands is upset about not organizing the Eurovision Song Festival. Computer audio is better? Okay, guys, thanks. Okay, let's just stick to this then. That was a chit chat, I guess. No, I think we're both okay, and everybody has to cope with the situation in their own way. It's a challenge, but I'm doing good. I think you are also, right?
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm doing good myself, and definitely enjoying staying real busy with the markets and some other projects that I've been working on. So it's been a very productive time in isolation for myself, and I guess it's also when spring is in the air. That's when the allergies start to kick in as well, and with the coronavirus going on, you sneeze and you start to wonder, oh gosh, what's going on here? So definitely fighting a little bit of allergies, and I'm pretty certain that's all that it is. But so feeling good and happy to be getting some work done, and like you said, all kind of coping with this in our own way, trying to do what we can to be there for friends and family and neighbors. That's really how we're going to get through times like this, and that's a good segue into the first thing that I am wanting to talk about before diving into the charts, and that is a little bit of a fundraiser, I guess that we could call it, that I will be doing to try to help people who are affected by the coronavirus. And what I'm going to be doing for the month of April is that everybody that registers, signs up, and pays for the MSR indicator, which is per year, 100% of that cost is going to be put towards donating to campaigns to try to help people who have been affected by this. The number one thing that is jumping out at me is this, let's see here, get this going, right, America's Food Fund. This is for feeding neighbors in need. Guys doing a tremendous job getting out there, making sure that people have enough food to survive throughout this. One thing that I really liked that he talked about was kids who require basically the school cafeteria food to basically eat. A lot of kids who are living in poverty don't have food unless they're in school for the most part. So he's also making sure to do what he can to get those kids fed while they are not able to be in school. Anybody that signs up for MSR and pays for during the month of April will be getting all of that donated towards causes like this. What's going to be most important to me is food, and then also small business owners who are struggling, keeping their head above water during this, trying to just do what we can to make sure that while people are out of work, they have food to eat, and that they have a job to go back to when this is all over. And so we'll be just doing what I can there, and really excited. I already had a couple people sign up. So already $1,000 will be getting donated, and anybody that hasn't signed up, this would be a great time to do so, because you would be getting yourself a year access to the indicator, as well as a year access to the chat group, and all of that money that you would be paying would be getting donated to people who are in need right now. So really excited about that. And yeah, so anybody who maybe already did sign up but wants to participate, definitely I think this is a good campaign. America's Food Fund, a really good one to start with, and would definitely appreciate anybody else who wants to join in and donate something along those lines. So great. That was the first thing.
That was great cause, Tyler. That's so good to hear, and wow, I'm so happy you're doing this.
Well,
there's nobody who cannot have a reason anymore buying your indicator, which is already great. So this is even better, right?
Well, I sure appreciate that.
Like this. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. That's amazing.
That's my pleasure. I feel very glad to be in a position to try to do what I can to play my part. So yeah, as that has been shared, we'll might as well go ahead and pull up the indicator just to show that there was a recent update that was made that was extremely important, solved the number one problem that MSR had, which was defining risk preemptively instead of just waiting for an exit signal and not really knowing where that would occur, and therefore not knowing really how much to expose while still managing risk properly. Was a big problem, and a really hard thing to solve. And that's what we did with this blue wave, what is referred to as the ocean. This is the addition that was recently added, that is the estimated stop loss zone. When price gets in there, that's where you get in big danger of reversing, and that's what we can look at using as a way to determine risk. And we can just look at this recent close long signal that occurred right here when price was kind of dancing around the middle of the ocean. So it just worked exactly how we would want to see it, and it has been working very well across all time frames, all asset classes. And now with that, we were able to have this addition as well, which tells you what your exposure should be, and that is something that you can, let's see here, you can adjust. There are inputs for bankroll size and how much you want to risk. So if your bankroll is 10,000 and you want to risk a maximum of 2% of the bankroll, then that's how you have it set. And then you come in here, and when there is a signal occurring, which there has been recently, which we will take a look at, then you can come in here and see, okay, my bankroll, what can I risk on a short position here, and it tells me 1,091 based on a $10,000 bankroll. My estimated risk is 18%. So if it moves against me, then I will be losing about $200, which is exactly 2% of the bankroll. So really, really neat addition here, which A, solves the problem of preemptively identifying what the risk is, and then B, helps us to quickly and easily determine what our exposure should be. So really, really exciting stuff, and let's go ahead and get right into it now that we have this up in front of us. The title of the show is going to be taking a look at the short setup in Bitcoin, and that is what we're seeing right here. Those that have been following along for a while should be able to recognize this for themselves, and we will take a look at the reason why. So short signal occurred back up in here around 8,237. And that was a situation that I missed out on that signal. I was not available to execute that entry. And therefore, the backup entry, the next time an entry would occur, is either if this tells us to close short and then go long. That would be one thing that could happen. Or the other thing is the first time price retests the 200 moving average after the signal occurs. That is our backup entry. So here, if I took this setup here and I did short at 82.37, I would have been looking to trim as it went deep into my favor in a quick fashion. I would be looking to trim and then re-enter the trim on the first retest of the 200 EMA. But since I didn't get this signal and I didn't get to trim and take some profit, now instead of re-entering, I am building a fresh position essentially. And that is the other way that the ocean can be used, is to highlight the entry zone. And that is the area between the 200 EMA and the top of the ocean if bearish, and the bottom of the ocean if bullish. Excuse me, it'd be top of the ocean here, yeah, and bottom of the ocean here. That area is our sell zone, and that is what I use to set orders. So in the Telegram group, I had been providing regular analysis, and as price was dancing around in here, I was telling everybody, I was on Tone's show in here, that I had orders to short around 72 to 75, and that is because of this area between the ocean and the 200 EMA. Didn't get filled, so I just kind of watched it go and started to think that it looks like I not only missed this one, but now I missed this one too. So be it. That's what happens sometimes. So just kind of watched it go as it got really close. Now I'm bumming. But then I continued to manage my orders and move them accordingly, because this zone will continue to move down as time goes by. So by the next time it got up to that zone, it had moved down to 69 to 72.50. So that was where my orders were set, and I was real happy to see when I got filled, and then we came off of this really nasty kind of reversal candle. I did have a couple more orders up here, but these orders did get filled, and then we got that nasty reversal candle, and things started looking good, specifically because we got back below the 200. That's what I watch for. Does that turn into support? If we get into my sell zone, does this now support the 200, which would then lead to a golden cross? Or does it quickly get back down below the 200 and turn it back into resistance? And that is what it looks like we're seeing now. We've only had one 4-hour close above the 200, and there was a sharp reaction that followed. And since then, that sharp reaction, the bottom of that has become support, and the 200 has established itself as resistance. So this is looking pretty good. but still not out of the woods, not even close. This thing could very easily break through 7,000 and get up to around 7,500 or so. And if that happens, now we're up in the ocean, and I'm expecting a stop loss to occur. And that is what makes this such a good setup, as far as I'm concerned, is the...
Can you elaborate on your stop loss there?
Yeah, basically, if we break through 71, 72, and we not only shoot up and spike back down, but get inside of the ocean, if we can close up in here and spend some time up in here, a few candles, then I would be expecting a stop loss to occur. And that's what's so great about this stop loss system, is that I don't have to have a hard stop on the books, which would endanger me of getting stopped out on these wicks, on these runs, on stops that occur. That's why I need to see it spend time up there, not just be a quick move up and then back down. If we actually spend some time in the ocean up here around 75, then it becomes really likely that a stop loss is going to occur, and I will be looking to exit my position, which right now has an average cost basis of around 7,030, right around there. So if we do move up into this area, I'd be looking at about a 10% loss is what I would be expecting. That is how I set up my position. And if we do instead break down, I would be looking for a return to 5,000. This horizontal would make a lot of sense for a conservative target. If I really wanted to be conservative, I could look at the 6,000 area, which would not be a great risk reward, but that is not what I'm looking at capitalizing with this system. This is a trend trading system. It is trying to capitalize on trends, and this is a range right here. So if we only get back down to 6, that's not a trend, and therefore I would expect the win to be minimized or even turned into a loss if I am trading a trend trading strategy in a range. So I wouldn't be looking at this as my target, because that's still a range. I'm looking at an actual trend, and even then, that's why I say that back down to 5,000 is conservative, because that's still a range, basically, from looking back to this area in here. So that would give me about a 2-to-1 risk reward, 2.5 or so. So that's what I like, is not necessarily the strike rate. I don't really have any confidence one way or another what's going to happen from here, whether it's going to break down or rally. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. It's at a spot where either could happen, and it's kind of 50-50. But what isn't 50-50 is the risk reward, and that's what interests me so much about this zone as an entry zone, with this being a good area to determine stops that are not getting me wicked out before the move actually happens.
Yeah, sounds good. You know, because we are doing this Zoom together, and I'm watching it what YouTube can see, but I'm actually seeing your screen like super small in our chat. Can you make it larger for me? The screen share that you're sharing with me?
No, I can't, unfortunately, and I've tried.
Okay, so then I just have to keep on looking over to my other screens here. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, like when I look at my screen's like this, and the area that I'm streaming on is like this, and that's because OBS, I just am not good with it. And
yeah, that's okay. I'll just keep on looking over. Your indicator looks great, and I think you gave a good explanation of it, and people can go to your website if they want to know more about it. Let's see how this position goes, right?
Absolutely right. It will be interesting to see. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look.
I have a question from the live chat. Hey, Dacian Tyler, do you think the bottom is in? Thoughts?
Oh man, that's the hardest thing.
It's not a very easy question to answer, but let's just kick off with the most difficult question in Bitcoin.
And that, I guess, is the question that we are mainly going to be trying to look at. So whether, and that's one thing that people need to understand, viewers, whatnot, whether or not that I think the bottom is in, it doesn't matter. What matters is, what am I doing with my money? If I tell you that, yeah, I think the bottom's in, and then I'm short, well, what really matters? What matters is that I'm short. It doesn't matter what I'm saying. Oh yeah, look, I think the bottom is in. So that's what I want people to pay attention to is, how I'm positioned, not necessarily what I think. So I will dive right into all of the reasons why I think the bottom may or may not be in. But as I'm doing that, just keep in mind that I'm short, and that's really what matters. And that short could change very quickly. Right now, we are at a do or die zone. Like I said, I think the price is getting ready to make a significant move one way or the other. When moving averages get really close to crossing, I think of it very much like a Bollinger Band squeeze, where right here, this is my squeeze. These moving averages are squeezing together with the 50 acting as support and the 200 as resistance. So it tells me that one of two things are going to happen. We're going to get a golden cross and price is going to go up, or we're going to resist a golden cross and price is going to dump. So right now, for me, it's 50-50. But once that next move happens, then a lot more becomes. If we can break back above this 75 level, then I'm really going to start thinking the bottom's in, and I'm going to be exiting my short. As it stands right now, I'm indifferent, and I see good reasons to think both ways, and I'll go over them. But the risk reward right now favors shorts as far as I'm concerned. And I do think that volatility is imminent based on this squeeze right here. Okay.
Looks like stuff's going to happen. What do you want to talk about now?
All right, so I'm going to go over whether or not I think the bottom is in. And
okay,
so that's
already at the next question.
Going to
let's go through that. Let's go over that first, which is, yeah, maybe you can also talk a bit about hyperwave, considering this.
Yep. Let's see here. Okay, so we want to take a look at, is the bottom in, and what are the key levels for me to decide one way or the other. Let's see here. I'm trying to get the right time frame, and I am struggling. 12 months. 12-month time frame. Okay, so key level is going to be where you see I have my alert set, 71.3302 yearly open. So trying to get a line there. So right here is our first critical level, is the yearly open, which is going to be, let's just get the exact, the yearly close from 2019, the yearly open from 2020. So this is close, 7,168. That is the critical level, 7,168. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. And this is how I will determine my critical levels, is starting with high time frame horizontals. Yearly closes and opens are critical, as are quarterly opens and closes. We just had a quarterly close April 1st. Yep, March 31st, April 1st. This closed right here. And where do we close? 6,421. Okay, so right now we are in between the two critical levels, and you can see I've got my alert set, quarterly close and yearly open. So I'm going to be notified. As long as we are in between those, I am indifferent. We are kind of trapped in a sideways range where there is equal supply and demand, roughly, in my mind. I am indifferent about whether the bottom is in or about whether we're going up or down, as long as we're below 71.68 and above 64.21. Okay, so those are my critical levels based on quarterly and yearly opens and closes. And then what we notice is that when we move down to the weekly, take a look at how these levels are being respected. It's amazing. It just blows my mind how important these levels are. So right here, what is the high of this week? 72.36. So that is about $60 above where this should be. We want this at 71.68, so right there. So right here this week, the first bounce on March 16th, the high was 71.39, so about 30 bucks away. And then we created a lower high, didn't quite get up there. And we also notice closed this weekly below 64.21, closed this weekly below 64.21, and now we're back up. This is actually a very important close that is coming in because now it could be the first time where we're closing above a weekly above that quarterly level right here, and then also it has created a higher high above these two. And also, this created a higher high above the yearly open. So there's a lot happening here that you got to be paying very, very close attention to see that this is actually a big deal, this wick getting above this, because it broke that yearly open. And now what's the result is we're not seeing this quick, sharp move back down for the close. The close is holding above the quarterly level. So this is a big deal here. Still though, it's in between 71.68 and 64.21, so I am indifferent. And let's see what we need to add. We're going to be looking at just basically seeing how these levels line up. So my alert here, that's the quarterly. Notice how it lines up with these previous levels. So we can see that that quarterly close, yeah, it's clearly a very big deal.
It is, yeah, I can see. I never watched yeah.
And then same we could say for the annual close that that's been a very important level all the way, you know.
I'm not looking at annual closes at all. I don't know how many people look at that.
Very, very important way
for your taxes here in the Netherlands. You have to report how much Bitcoin you had on the 1st of January. So sometimes they dump just before the 1st of January. But other than that, I was not going to be looking at yearly closes. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
Right. So yeah, I definitely say that's something to pay attention to. Yearly closes and opens are key levels, and specifically when you see quarterly and yearly levels right around the same area, this is where everything happens. Whatever happens from here, from this range, that next move, like I said, right now I'm indifferent, but after the next move happens above 71.68 or below 64.21, now I have a lot more bias in my direction of the market. So taking it back to the question, did we bottom? This looks really good to me. Seeing that this came down to retest the lows of 2019, create a higher low, and has closed every week above this line. That is a very big deal to me. Horizontal than trend lines. So that's what I'll be watching for is support from this trend line. Can it break through horizontals, or does it just lead to some sort of situation where we throw back to the horizontal before breaking down the trend line? That is something I'll be paying very close attention to. So this looks good, and the main reason why I am compelled by the argument that the bottom is in is going to be the volume that occurred on this move down. And my volume is, we can barely see it. Let's see if I can make it a little darker.
You mean the big move down to the 3000s?
Yep.
Yeah, but wasn't that also just Bitmex is going crazy? Well, so there was a lot happening right there, which was out of people's control. I know a lot of people who could not log into their account. They could have prevented liquidation, but it was just stop over stop over stop, and then Bitmex had to close down the whole system because otherwise it would have gone to zero. So how much of human influence was that, and how much was it just an error in the whole system? I know it was a lot of volume, but just saying.
So yeah, I guess that's a couple questions. Is first of all what you said, how much of it was natural and human, and then also taking that another step would be to say, does it matter if there was a big amount of volume? Does it matter what caused it? So I would say that So I was there, and I was trading as that was happening. As this big sell-off was coming down, I was trading on Bitmex, and I was there when the exchange went down and crashed, and it was no longer people could access it, and it lasted for about 30 minutes. And that was right near the bottom, and there was some big action that happened there. So I don't think so. Bitmex shutting down, that's not what led to the big sell-off, and there was a ton of selling volume that occurred before that.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
I wasn't there live. Okay. Yeah.
so yeah, that was just something to clarify, for because this has been a main narrative going around, and I think on one hand it has been overblown that it happened at the end, and it happened for a short amount of time, and for sure there were probably some people that got liquidated that could have stopped themselves from doing so, but for that to be the case, you would have had to, it was just that 30 minutes that you would have had to make something happen, and the market was moving so fast that you might not even be able to do it with it being open. So that was a situation where it was the overall, all markets across the world were selling off big, and Bitcoin was no exception. So it was a natural sell-off in my mind that was natural panic in a real move. And the shutdown, I do think, maybe made it less bad because, like you said, I mean, it could have gone to zero on Bitmex if it didn't shut down. There was something like 50 million liquidity available between 3,000 and zero, and they just gone through 1 billion in liquidations. So them shutting down, for me, propped the price up more than anything else. So even if that is all kind of speculation and conjecture, which isn't as important as the question of, does it matter? There was $1 billion in liquidations that got bought up by somebody, like whoever was getting liquidated, somebody else was on the other side of that trade.
Oh, the seller is a buyer, right?
Exactly. So when the exchange went down and everybody was getting liquidated, well, there was somebody there that was able to to capitalize on that, whether or not they already had orders set or whatever it was. There was somebody that did buy those liquidations while Bitmex was shut down. So that was a big sign of capitulation to me, seeing a massive volume spike on a big sell-off where everybody is panicking and freaking out. To me, that is the strongest sign that this is a bottom, is this volume that occurred. So that, combined with not creating a new low, this big spike in volume and all those liquidations that caused over $1 billion to change hands just on Bitmex alone, that is a recipe for a bottom. The only question is, can Bitcoin hold up if the rest of the world is falling apart? That's the question. That's why I'm so indifferent right now. I'm really loving what I'm seeing off of this bounce. Really liking this. This is strong. This is really important to have this big bounce after this big sell-off. Alts aren't doing this, and we will take a look at alts really quickly, but this is different than what we're seeing out of alts. Yeah. So this is really important action, and over the next couple of months, I've said it before and I'll say it again, these next couple of months are the most important months that Bitcoin has ever experienced. I'm convinced of it. If it can hold up in a S&P bear market, it will gain so much more confidence and notoriety than it ever did in the past times 10. But we can't expect that to happen. Crypto is the riskiest asset in the world. When the S&P enters a bear market, everybody goes to take off risk. They want to exit and protect themselves from risk. So the riskiest asset in the world should be the first to sell off, and it should sell off harder than anything else in a risk-off environment. That's the theory. And if it can support that first big sell-off, like gold did in 2008, then what follows is potentially a tremendous bubble, a big move. So if we can keep supporting, keep holding up, and keep either moving sideways or up while the S&P is in such a vulnerable spot, it will be the most bullish thing that I've ever seen out of Bitcoin. That's a huge, enormous if. And until that if is proven to me, I am feeling mostly comfortable being short in this type of an environment. Okay.
You want to switch to alts? I have a question about alts. I have one question about Bitcoin, but maybe you can keep the answer short. There's somebody asking, is there going to be a surprise halvening pump, or did the corona kill that pump? It's only 45 weeks away. Just short answer on that.
I don't really have short answers, so I apologize.
Oh, I know. That's why I was trying to push it.
And
you could try.
That's the most important thing to me right now. Is it's the halvening versus the coronavirus, and
I
the
know.
coronavirus.
You can
should
elaborate.
win.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
And
then we switch to alts. Okay.
Yeah, so the coronavirus should win that battle in terms of what is the more important fundamental event. For sure, the coronavirus is a more important fundamental event than the halving. But is that how the market's going to react? After that last big sell-off, we really kind of got to see who's going to sell their Bitcoin. Who like that? That may have been an enormous shakeout before the big halvening pump leading into and following. That very well could be what we saw, and this ties into what we'll transition to with the alts. What I'm so intrigued by is how alts may actually save Bitcoin. And that's an idea that I've just started to think about.
Really?
Hello? And hello, I believe I'm back on. Internet cut out, really struggling here. I don't know what's been going on. I think okay. I think I'm on, but I really am not sure. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, we'll get this back up and going here. 1 second. Okay. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Just every time I've done a stream, like last 5 times, I've had an issue. So I should be back up and going. I see you guys can see me. I just sent Daisy a link. Looks like she'll be joining back on. Okay, so and I blocked out at the perfect time, right when I was getting into my explanation of why I believe that alts may actually save Bitcoin, whereas the main story as of late has been how alts have been really harming Bitcoin and muddling the value proposition and that sort of thing. What I'm really interested in is would cause Bitcoin to perform well in a risk-off environment. And the thing that I believe could cause that is a flight from safety out of alts and into Bitcoin. And it looks like I may be kind of coming in and out there. So hopefully the quality is okay. But so yeah, that's what I'm thinking is in a risk-off environment. Let's see here. Then what is going to happen is people are going to fly to safety, and in general, the flight to safety is into US dollar or or gold, and Bitcoin is too new, too young to be considered an asset that is safe, that people would fly to safety, except for people who are holding alts and really believing in crypto. So that is what I believe, let's see here, could cause for Bitcoin to hold up in a really, really bad environment where everything else in the world's selling off, and Bitcoin is either going sideways or up. that would be tremendously bullish. And why that could happen, as far as my thinking goes, it would be a flight to safety from alts into Bitcoin. That there's some big market caps in alts, and if there's a flight to safety then into Bitcoin, then that could be greater than the selling pressure that is resulted from the flight to safety of people selling Bitcoin and going into US dollars. All right, looks like we've got Daisy back, and I think so. There she is. Hello? Hello, hello? It looks like you joined. We can't hear you and can't see you. And I'm just going to keep going until I hear you chime in or see you pop up. Stream looks fine. I'm glad to hear it. So yeah, that's a really important idea, I think, to consider. Where would there be more supply or demand? Would there be more people trying to sell their Bitcoin for US dollars? There be more people trying to sell their alts for Bitcoin? And that's what's so interesting about this bounce we're seeing on Bitcoin from the lows compared to what we're seeing out of alts. So let's go ahead and take a look at ETH. And Daisy, you were promoted there. Now I see you. I may not hear you. Maybe on mute, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, I think the US government does not want us to talk about coronavirus and Bitcoin. Jesus Christ. Because Zoom also wouldn't let me in. Zoom is like forcing me to do an update and stuff. Okay,
is that right?
Hey guys.
Yeah.
What was that? What happened?
Let's see here. I've just been having, I don't know what is going on, a lot of trouble. Every time I've streamed.
It might have been on your end.
Oh, it definitely is. Every time I've streamed lately, I have had issues. Okay, so what we're going to do here is just compare what ETH looks like and what Bitcoin looks like on two charts that are side by side. So yeah, I'm not sure if you were able to hear, but the idea is that why alts could save Bitcoin is that potentially in a big bear market with the S&P where people are panicking, freaking out, and flying to safety, potentially there would be enough people who are in alts that fly to safety by going to Bitcoin instead of going back to US dollar, that could be enough to prop it up, because the people in crypto, and for the price to not tank in an environment where the S&P is tanking, we need new money coming in. And that's the problem, is there's no new money coming into crypto when the S&P is tanking, and there are going to be some money coming out. So therefore the price goes down. Very hard to consider a situation where there would be new money coming into Bitcoin when there's an S&P bear market. And that's potentially what we're seeing right now out of alts. Failing to bounce like Bitcoin is telling me that people are rushing to sell their alts, and not nearly as much as they are their Bitcoin. So let's take a look real quick at the 4-hour chart. Notice how Ethereum, it bounced, so the low was 91-ish or so, and then that following bounce was up to 143, and it then has consolidated sideways and has not gotten above that horizontal that followed the first bounce. So Bitcoin bottoms here around 35 and then has the first bounce come back up to close to 6, we'll say 57. Now we use that to draw a horizontal on Bitcoin, and we notice that it broken through that horizontal, turned it back into support, and is now working on a next horizontal to break through. Whereas Ethereum and every other alt basically that I'm looking at is more like this, where it is still under its horizontal level of resistance that was created from that first bounce. And for sure we could say that it's painting a beautiful ascending triangle, which maybe it is, but to me this looks like something that's going to trap people in, that if this thing hasn't moved yet while Bitcoin has been, this is a big sign to me that this bounce is very strong in Bitcoin, and we're seeing that a really good reaction out of Bitcoin, whereas alts it's just going sideways, which is a really bad reaction after a big sell-off. So that is making me think that the demand for Bitcoin for people exiting alts maybe would be enough to keep it up during a big sell-off in other markets. And that's all that we would really need, is to just, if we could just go sideways while the other markets are selling off, that would be tremendously bullish. And the Ethereum and the alts going sideways while Bitcoin is bouncing is tremendously bearish, especially if it cannot get out of the moon and make a move to 170 or 200. So that's...
Yeah, I agree. You also had one question in the chat, somebody asking about higher time frames on alts, so I guess we can stick to Ethereum. Can you take a look at alts, most of them looking for a descending triangle on the higher time frames? I don't know if you agree, it's a question, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate the, let's see here. I think I see descending on the log chart. Nope. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I do see a lower high and then 2 touches of support, but what we would really need, like this would just be too early for me. If we did bounce from here and create another lower high, now we could draw it in using this back here as our touch point. I mean, it's fine. It's too early. That wouldn't be how to measure the target. So yeah, well, not in love with it. What I would be labeling this as is a channel.
Yeah. So, yeah. Cal Duplessis also had a question. I hope I pronounced your name right.
I think you nailed it.
We have never bottomed without daily divergence, and we haven't got that yet. We usually have at least 3 drives down, plus day death cross on 2-day brings an average drawdown of 50%.
Yeah, good analysis, and definitely something to pay attention to. For me, I'm kind of throwing all that out to the side right now because we are in unprecedented territories. There's a number of things that have recently happened that have never happened before. So therefore, I'm not necessarily waiting myself for something that has always happened in the past to signal a bottom. This is just unprecedented territory, breaking down the log growth curve trend line, and then having these major rallies without creating higher highs, and staying in a bear market, wall inside of the bear market, basically, not near as much on Ethereum, but just completely unprecedented. So yeah, I think that's something to pay attention to, but that won't be very important for me. So yeah, here's the higher time frame pattern for ETH USD, which reminds me of something I forgot to, oh, there's a couple things I was wanting to touch on Bitcoin, got ahead of ourselves a little bit, but want to look at the bear channel on Bitcoin that can be adjusted after that recent action. So this looks weird. So that everybody was looking at the bear channel before this happened, kind of drawing it like, you know, something like this, you know, good with these touch points. And then this was what made everybody say, okay, the bear channel is broken. And I'm not convinced. I think that we can use that to keep this bear channel intact. And the reason why I like this is because of how the median is a crucial level. When we move this up here, if the median wasn't an important level, then I wouldn't be inclined at all. But here we see that by moving this up, the support stays really good. And even after this was apparently broke up here, support held down here, and now the median has been a crucial point a number of times. If you got through it, you get to the top. If you don't, you come back to the bottom. So to me, this is a real nice channel, and I'm definitely paying close attention to this bounce here, testing the median now. If it can get through the median, then we would look at a return to the top around 86.50, and that's the top of where this dead cat bounce could go. This could still get up to 8,800, and I could still have a very small degree of confidence that the bottom is in. But if we get above this area, above 9, now it's really starting to look like the bottom is in, and I'm okay with missing out on a between here and there, because this is just too much of a no man's land specifically for longing, and this is something I want to pay attention to for where this bounce could go and still give us another lower high on the weekly.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, two times down, 1 times up. So we'll see which way it goes now. It's at the median.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah.
And great questions. Thank you for asking good questions, and thank you, Daisy, for catching them. Real quickly.
Yeah, I think we're through the questions now, so you can just roll on.
Great. So real quickly, I want to highlight the 50 EMA on the 12-hour chart. This has been a critical level. Basically for a while now. We can just kind of go back through this chart and see it being resistance. When it failed to resist, a big move followed. Here, this is just a really good way to determine trend. If price is below the 12-hour bear trend, and this then acts as resistance, and then when it turns up, now your bull trend, and it starts acting as support. And then when it breaks down, now bear trend below the moving average, and it acts as resistance. Resistance acts as resistance, and now we're back above.
Yeah. Oh, look at the back test after the breakdown. Oh, like the last breakdown.
Yeah.
It's just picture perfect, right?
Isn't it? Yeah. So now it's flattening out. Price is above it, consolidating.
Oh, and now we're above it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is beautiful. Now turning it back into support. If we're using this to determine our trend, we could say that the troll and on the verge of turning bullish, wait for that to angle up potentially, and you could say that it is bullish. So that's a very good complement for what I use with the 50 and 200 EMAs on the 4-hour chart, because so right here, the 12 hours saying that this is the area where it's in danger of reversing. If we can't resist the 50 and move down and instead support it and turn that up, then now the trend is reversing bullish. So critical level for that, and it lines up very nicely with the moving averages on the 4-hour, which are saying that this needs to hold as resistance, the 200, and if it doesn't, then we look for a golden cross, and that's where I would be looking to get out. So paying very close attention to my favorite moving averages, 50 and 200 on the 4-hour, and then the 200 on the 12. So let's go ahead and pull up the cloud real quick.
The Ichimoku.
Ichimoku, yes. Okay, so cloud, very quickly, got a bullish TK cross right here. So again, my favorite indicators are kind of saying the same thing, that it's no man's land, but it is close, very close to turning, which basically means a short is a good idea, because if it turns, if it does turn bullish, now I just exit and it didn't have to move far for me to do it. So here, cloud has a bullish TK cross, and we are getting close to the cloud, and the cloud is very thin. It would be very easy to move through this cloud in one candle to go from 68 to 72, close back above the cloud. Now you would only need a bullish TK cross, much different than when the cloud is thicker and has a longer room to move. So cloud is saying that this was where you needed to exit shorts and wait. Basically exit the shorts that were entered right here was your short signal, right around where MSR signaled as well. So this is now saying exit that short and wait for further confirmation. And if it can get back above the cloud and get a bullish TK cross, that's your confirmation. So let's take a look at a smaller time frame to get an idea for how that's been progressing. 12-hour cloud, bullish TK cross, re-enter cloud, fail to break through, come down, find support at the bottom, boom, break through, bullish bullish Kumo twist. So 12-hour cloud is fully bullish and has signaled along right here, basically at these current prices. So that is interesting to see that maybe it's a little bit of a leading indicator. So that would be, this is what I'm looking at when we're at an area of contention, at a really area that is very important. This is what I'm looking at all my tools and seeing if maybe one maybe is giving me a little bit more information than the other. The 50 and 200, well, let's start with the 50 on the 12-hour. It's showing the first signs that we got back above. Now we're supporting it, and now it's flattening out, but it still hasn't turned it up. So what does the 4-hour say? Well, the 200 is holding as resistance, and the price is back below the 200 and has been turning that into resistance, telling me that I maybe want to tread with caution on that 12-hour 50 EMA until we can get back above the 4-hour 200 EMA. And then I look at the 12-hour cloud, and I see that it has gone fully bullish and signaled a long recently. Now it's telling me, well, maybe it's the 4-hour that's a little late, and maybe that one is getting ready to cross bullish, and it's the cloud that is going to be, and the 12-hour 50 EMA that are going to be the ones that are leading. So that's why I like to use multiple indicators on multiple time frames, because sometimes there will be one or two that start to signal something before the other, and that helps me to really be ready or to start building a position once they all do go ahead and line up. So
you know what, the last 40 to 50 seconds, everything you said basically comes down to what you said in the beginning also of the video, was that the EMAs are getting close to each other, waiting for a big thing to happen.
100%, absolutely right. So yeah, good catch, and that is absolutely right. And that's where it's time to pay close attention, but not act preemptively, and to be following signals. So right now I am in my short position, and I am paying very close attention to it, but I'm not going to be acting preemptively, and I'm going to be waiting for fall to occur. So all right, should we go ahead and jump into the S&P, or do you have any other questions?
Yes, yeah, please.
All right. So S&P 500. The futures are going to open here, and I think, is that 30 minutes? Yeah, I think 30 minutes. The futures will open. It'll be very interesting to see when
they say that oil is going to completely crater.
Interesting.
Oil was really bullish of what Trump said. I think it was last Thursday, and after that they had some talks, and I mean, it doesn't look good for the situation with oil, and they say it's probably going to crater. Can you watch futures on oil?
Yeah, I don't yet.
Yeah.
I think here in 30 minutes.
You can have a look at those. Yeah, because the only thing I've been seeing the last couple of days were just, oil has pumped the most since 70 or 80 years in the past, but it's after it dropped like I don't know how much, right? And now it's set to crater again, probably.
Yep, absolutely. We can take a look.
But let's look at the S&P first, yeah.
Okay, so let's go through critical levels for S&P. Yearly open for 2019, 2,477. Okay, so that's going to be our first very critical. 2,477. And now let's take a look at the quarterly. So similar situation that we're seeing with Bitcoin, in that we are above the yearly open but below the quarterly close. So a bit of a no man's land area in between two very, very important horizontals. I'm very interested to see how we react after breaking down the yearly lows, to see and then getting a wick that shoots us back above and closes monthly and candles and quarterly candles above. That's potentially a very important sign to close the quarterly candle above the yearly open. So that's the first good sign. But I'm afraid that the good signs that we're seeing are just going to be short-lived and potentially selling opportunities. So that is the horizontals that we would look at, and we start with horizontals on high time frames because horizontals are more important than trend lines. And then after that, we look to draw on our trend lines. And we can use the 3-month here, makes it real nice and clean. And we see that every time we've had a 3-month close down around this trend line, it's led to sharp reactions back up to the. And now for the first.
Why wouldn't you take the low of that green candle next to the last red candle?
Take the low of the green candle.
Like so 5 candles back from
1, 2,
now.
3, 4, 5. This one.
From now, like from present.
1, 2, 4, 5. This one.
Yeah, the low. Like why would you take the low of the red candle? Why wouldn't you take the low of the green candle?
Oh, right here. The low of this red candle is instead of.
One more to the left.
Oh.
One more to the left.
Okay. One more to the left.
No, okay, so not from here on, go 1, 2 candles to the left. The green, the last green, yeah, that we want to, yeah, that one. Why wouldn't you take the low of the green candle? Why would you take the low of the? You're cutting to the low of that red candle now, right? And then you're negating the other low, which is lower.
I'm not sure I follow, and it may be confusing because this line here is not drawn with any of these candles. It was actually drawn from the yearly candle.
Oh, okay, yes, that's true. Okay, yeah, it just looks like, okay.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Sorry.
So this was our yearly open. We'll do yellow, and quarterly close. We'll do red, and then trend line. So this is the most important thing to me, is this trend line. And that's why I am really not feeling good, that along with everything else going on in the world. But basically, every time we've had a 3-month close near this trend line, it's led to a big move to the upside. And here, for the first time, the 3-month candle, monthly candle, weekly candle closed below this trend line. So that's a really bad sign. And therefore, any bounce is going to be much in danger of just throwing back to retest prior support for resistance. So this is what I'm looking for out of the S&P, is a bounce to about 28 to 3,000. Well, I'm not necessarily expecting this to happen, but if it does, it would be a great selling opportunity. Right here, I mean, we don't want to be selling down in here. If we got into a short up around here, great, way to go, you crushed it. If not, we don't want to be selling down here. So we would be saying that if we do get a bounce, then I would be very interested in selling that. And if we don't, then it was kind of like the Bitcoin 4-hour setup, where if we don't and I just got to miss out, then so be it. So something else that would jump out at me with this to retest it is how it would line up with another kind of critical horizontal from the quarterly closes there and opens. So here we see 29.29 was pretty important back in here. This did close slightly above, but that's definitely an important horizontal. Let me just take a look at a monthly to see. Yeah, we see that from 29.30 up to 29.50 is a very important kind of horizontal zone where we've got resistance, support, and now it didn't support, so a throwback would expect that to turn into resistance. So would be looking for a relief rally. We did sell off hard, and would be looking for a relief rally and expecting that to provide a really good selling opportunity. and we can just quickly and easily see how that would be highlighted by the setup that I'm basically looking at on the Bitcoin chart. If we were to pull up MSR, and
I was just going to ask, pull up MSR on S&P. Yeah.
oh, excellent. I like where your head's at.
Are you going to do it with Bitcoin chart?
So yeah, S&P MSR right here. So I mentioned that I thought that 2850 to 3000 would be a good area to sell, which was primarily based on horizontals from quarterly and monthly candles, as well as a throwback to retest a trend line for prior trend line that was support, to test that for resistance. And then what we would notice is that's where we would also have a sell signal from MSR. Right here, the signal came in, and then how beautiful is that close long, like right at the top, basically. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then the short signal, another good setup that I did not take. I wasn't around. Don't remember seeing it and deciding I didn't want to take it. That's for sure. So here, I'm not short in a market that's trending bearish, and I'm looking to get short, and therefore I would be looking for the area between the 200 EMA and the ocean to provide me with a low risk sell setup, and that's what I would be looking at right now. The 4-hour 200 EMA is 29.53, and it's going to continue moving down. So over the next couple weeks, I would expect it to come down to about 28.50, which is exactly where I was looking at horizontals and trend lines. And then I would also look at this to continue to trend down. So I would be expecting a sell setup to occur between 28.80 and 3,000, and that would be a really, really good spot to build a short position as far as I'm concerned. And then we would see that would actually be the same price that the original signal occurred. So anytime I can get an entry at the original signal price after it started to trend in that direction, really good opportunity. So that's what I will be looking at, is a move to 28.50 to 3,000 to be my opportunity to sell. I'm indifferent about whether or not it'll get there. It shouldn't. Fundamentally, there's no reason why it should bounce there, but technically it should, because it sold off so hard and so fast that it really does need some sort of correction back up to that area. So I'll be ready for it if that happens. One other reason why I think that that's a good spot to target before sending it back to Daisy would be this potential head and shoulders target on the 1 hour. Let me see if I am finding this correctly. Okay, so we can just say that we have a head right here, a shoulder right here, and a shoulder right here for our pattern inverse head and shoulder action, which provided a measured move to about 27. So I was remembering that being closer to that target. So yeah, not quite as good of confirmation as I was hoping, but that's something that you'll see often is horizontals and horizontals and trend lines lining up with moving averages, which also line up with pattern targets, and that's something I really like to see. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing out of the S&P. Any questions there?
I don't see too many. I see somebody looking at. Okay, he says gap on daily at 228. I guess there's some like a fourth digit missing there. But I think your theory about where you would sell would actually be some gap filling there, I guess, because there was a huge gap there when it dropped.
Okay, let's see. We got a gap here. From
your selling area.
Yep. So I'm seeing a gap here from 28.67 to 29. So yep, that would be filling a gap. The big gap is up here, 33.30 to 50. That one I do not expect to fill. And that's something that needs to be distinguished, is not all gaps are the same. Some gaps are meant to be filled and others are not. And breakaway gaps are not expected to be filled in the near future, if ever at all. And to me, this is a breakaway gap. So I wouldn't expect this to get filled. This one is, yeah, that's a good catch. I hadn't noticed this one, that this is a very reasonable gap to fill, and that is right exactly where I would be looking to sell. So I like that. And all right, I guess a quick look at oil, and then we'll call it a day. Already over an hour.
There's no other questions. Just have a look at oil.
All right.
But it's also news driven.
Yeah. So I did make a good call on oil, at least so far. It's looking good. Sent out a tweet saying that April is a time to buy oil, and that was right around here at $21 on like March 30th, 31st or something. And what I was looking at was breaking through line, and then the 50 coming in to the 200, the price supporting above the 200 for the most part. It was, I guess, the tweet was right here as this was taken off. I was like, here's a good spot to buy oil, would be the 200 EMA here at 21.20 and the 50 here at 20.81. Was kind of thinking something like this might happen, where it pulls back into and then takes off. Instead, it failed to get the golden cross. It broke down the 50, and then that's where I pay very close attention to what happens next. When we got close to this golden cross and it fails to happen, what happens next? Do we go create a new local low, or do we throw back and retest a trend line, turn into their low? So this was very bullish action to me, being that we failed to get the golden cross, and on that reaction we found support on a throwback to the trend line. We failed to create a new low, and then we started to kind of bottom out a little bit like that. So things started looking real good, and then we got that big move that followed right in here. So now the question is, how much further can it go? Is it time to sell? That's what is that? A 40% move in a couple days, like 2 days. 40% move. To me, that's the spot to take profit. Okay, so let's take a look at the moving averages. All right, there we go. And we might as well just use our handy dandy MSR.
Yeah, do that.
So here was the short signal. Well, let's start with close long at 58.26. Short signal comes at 53.95. Next signal occurs on the throwback to retest the 200 EMA. So there were your signals originally, 53.95, and then again at 54.16. And then we get the big breakdown, and now we're reapproaching that area. This would not be a situation where I'd be looking to sell this. I'm mostly interested on the first throwback to retest that. After that, I start to keep an eye out for a reversal. So this is a spot where instead of shorting that area, if I did happen to find myself in long exposure, I would look to take profit in that area, and I would be looking to scale out at horizontals on the way up. So any longs on oil, be looking to fully exit, in my opinion, between 28 to 33, just for me, how I trade. Not any other longs on oil can do whatever they want and maybe do much better. But for me, this is where I would be very interested in taking profits. So we just had a big move in a short period of time, and that, to me, just looks like a counter trend correction in a very oversold market, and therefore I don't really even want to be long in a market like that. I would be looking, but if I am, I would not be wanting to hold through that. So let's go ahead and just take a look at the daily real quick. So yep, 50-day EMA is something else that I would be targeting. Yeah, that would be my target.
50-day EMA?
Yep. 50-day EMA combined with horizontals at the moving average will continue moving down as we move up. So this zone right here at 35 bucks that lines up with these horizontals here and will line up with this moving average here. That looks like a really reasonable place for this to bounce to. And then from there, I would look at drawing in a trend line. And everything looks like it lines up pretty good. So maybe if the 50 fails to hold as resistance right here and the 4-hour fails to hold, kind of like I would be worried about, then I would be looking for the 200 to hold and or this trend line, which would be still likely in line with this. So yeah, if this thing does that, that would be a really interesting selling opportunity. And right in here, definitely not a buying opportunity, and a spot where if long, starting to scale out and looking to aggressively scale out as price, if it continues to move. And that's the problem with traditional markets, is after the weekend, I mean, this thing could gap. You'd think you're in a great trade and you just crush it, and then all of a sudden it gaps down to 17, and you're trying to figure out what in the world just happened. So it will be interesting to see how that market opens.
Good analysis, yeah. I bet you got your orders in there.
Yep, time to have orders ready and set, because when these moves happen, they can happen really, really quickly. Kind of like with the Bitcoin move. If my orders weren't set, I wouldn't have gotten filled, because it was just a 15-minute move. It wicked up there to fill those orders. So definitely got, and especially with profit-taking orders, you definitely want those profit-taking orders ready to go. It's more important in crypto than anywhere else, but definitely applies to oil now as well, where in crypto there will be times where the price gets to the target right where you want to sell, but it just does it in the blink of an eye, and if you didn't have the order on the book to take that profit, then you miss, and that turns what could have been a real nice trade into what may be a losing trade.
Yeah, plus you get paid for the limit order, and otherwise you have to market exit and you pay for the order, which is an extra, right?
That's exactly right. And Daisy's been putting in a lot of work herself during quarantine, learning some technical analysis, and I really appreciate you putting in the time and energy there. You mentioned that you recently watched my Bitmex tutorial series, so shout out to that. Anybody who is curious or wanting to learn more about setting orders and trading on leverage, that sort of stuff. Really good tutorial series on the channel, Bitmex tutorial. It's 101 through 105. It'll take you from A to Z, and there's some good information in there. So definitely I'm glad to hear that you made your way through that and found some value there. And before signing off, let me do one more screen share. For those who maybe didn't see the first part of the show, I will be donating 100% of the proceeds to people affected by the coronavirus. So just a last little shill before calling it a day. First thing that has caught my attention is America's Food Fund, doing a great job of making sure that people have enough food to survive while being either laid off or just stuck in isolation. Really, really important what this guy is doing, and I definitely want to support that in any way that I can. So any sales for MSR during the month of April, 100% of that will be going to people coronavirus through GoFundMe campaigns. It will be up to me to decide exactly how much goes where. The other thing I want to support is small businesses who are struggling to keep their doors open, basically, or struggling to stay in business while not being able to operate for a few months. If we can just make sure that people have food to eat while they are in isolation, and make sure that businesses don't go out of business because they had to go into isolation themselves for a couple months, then we should be able to get through this on the other side, and we'll do that together. So I'm really excited to be able to donate anything that I can to either helping to feed people or to help businesses keep afloat. And you can find more information about the indicator at Sawcruhteez.com. We had the indicator pulled up a number of times today. It is going to be signals, entries, and exits, and is going to protect you against being fully exposed to markets that are moving against you. Does a really, really good job in parabolic markets. And this is the description. Goes over some backtest stuff, some different markets, and then down here you will get to the price for how to buy. It's $500, or a 20% discount is offered to those who sign up using my affiliate link. So yeah, I appreciate anybody who does sign up, and if you do know anybody else to spread the word, that would be great. You will get access to the indicator for 1 year for $500, and you will also get access to the Telegram group. Most of my analysis as of late, as I haven't been on YouTube or Twitter or TradingView as much, I've been spending a lot of time in Telegram, so that does come with access to that group. Anybody who buys the indicator, and you know that your money is going towards helping those who are in need. So again, Sawcruhteez, WCRUHTEEZ, and there is also a link in the description of the video. So that will for me today. Thank you very much for joining, Daisy. Apologize for the technical difficulties that we have, but thank you everybody for hanging in there and listen to me blabber on. So I will try to continue doing these once every week.
I'll enjoy it. Bye.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. And yeah, we'll try to do these once a week, and we'll try to have Daisy join anytime that she's available. She makes for an excellent co-host. A bunch of great questions yourself, and then it's great.
We didn't mention the tulips.
Oh, I forgot. Daisy's coming to us live from Holland with tulips there in the background, and be a good thing to sign off with. As one of the things that I had to get when I was in Amsterdam was some tulips. So this year in my garden, I'm going to have tulips from Amsterdam, which, as most of you know, that's where the tulip bubble occurred. So that's going to be really cool for me. And yeah, love seeing the tulips that you got there in the background.
Yeah, that was a great stream. Thanks everybody, and again, your cause is so great. You donating that money, which comes in April. I think it's just amazing, and gives people an opportunity to get this great indicator and also donate money. So it's double win.
Double win for sure. That's what we're all about. So thanks again for joining. It's been a pleasure, and I will hope that you can join us next time.
Oh, I forgot. I have a hoodie. I forgot. I have to show you. I have a hoodie. I have to finish with the hoodie on.
I can't believe that you could have been wearing your hoodie this whole time.
Finish with the hoodie without the ears.
Oh man, I can't believe it. You weren't wearing this that whole time.